speaker will be Ken Krawchuk. Double trouble, Ken Krawchuk.
Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. Thus spoke Scotty, chief engineer aboard the Starship Enterprise. Madam Contest Master, fellow Toastmasters, and guests, nobody likes to be forced to learn the same lesson twice. Can you imagine learning the same 3 lessons twice? Talk about double trouble. Would you like to hear 2 true stories with the same 3 lessons? Are you sure? I can't promise everybody's going to live happily ever after. Okay, here goes. There we were, myself and 4 friends, out for a week of overnight backpacking through the Catskill Mountains. Those hikes are a bit of fun we do every year, going back to our college days. It's always a bit of a challenge, hiking in the middle of nowhere. But we were prepared. We were experienced. We were ready for anything. Until the night the storm of the century hit. First lesson we were forced to learn, expect the unexpected. There we were, my wife, our 3 grown daughters, and 3 grandchildren, coming home after 6 days at the Philadelphia Folk Festival. The Folk Festival is a bit of fun we do every year, going back to when the kids were little. Coming back from the Folk Fest, it's a bit of a challenge. You see, the concerts run until midnight every night, and then there are impromptu concerts in the campground that go until dawn. So when you come home from Fest, you are capital T tired. So it's no surprise that our youngest daughter, Carissa, didn't notice the tiredness that was the first sign of acute myeloid leukemia. The lesson we didn't want to learn that day, expect the unexpected. Storms of the century are very, very different up in the mountains at night. First of all, it's so black you literally can't see your hand in front of your face. And the hissing of the falling rain is so loud, you have to shout to be heard. Well, come morning, we surrendered. We packed up our wet gear and started that long, torturous hike back to the cars in that cold March rain. When we saw the cars ahead through the trees, we let out a cheer. That cheer was premature because the 20-mile drive out of the mountains that day was a nightmare. First of all, that dirt road could hardly be called a road. Second of all, there were places where water was rushing right across the top of the road. We're lucky we didn't get washed away. Well, you can guess, eventually our luck ran out. Because right there in front of us, not 20 feet in front of us, the entire mountainside let loose and a giant mudslide surged across the highway. Rocks, boulders, uprooted trees canted at funny angles. We lost track behind it. The lesson we learned that day, just because you're out of the forest doesn't mean you're out of the woods. Two days after returning from Folk Fest, Carissa had so little energy she could hardly walk across the room. Her fiancé, Matt, pre-med student, he knew this meant trouble. Took her to the emergency room. Within 24 hours, the doctors were certain it was leukemia. So much for the wedding plans, right? Immediately, they started on the chemotherapy drugs. Multiple drugs, powerful drugs. Week after week after week. After 3 horrible months, the best possible news came down. The leukemia was beaten. You should have heard the cheer that we let out that day. But the cheer was a bit premature. We found out the root cause was in her bone marrow. And although it was beaten today, it would surely come back. The lesson we didn't want to learn that day, just because you're out of the forest doesn't mean you're out of the woods. The rain continued to fall as we sat there huddled in the car, trapped behind the mudslide. Eventually, bulldozers came. It took them over an hour to clear away a path. And a few hours later, we finally found ourselves back home. Warm, dry, safe. And you know what's the funny part? Every March, we still go out for a week. In fact, I just got back a couple of weeks ago from the Appalachian Trail down near Harper's Ferry. The lesson we learned and have taken to heart is that you can't let past troubles stop you from enjoying life. The news that Carissa's leukemia would return hit us like a mountain mudslide, and just as welcome. But the doctors held out a promise of hope. A bone marrow transplant could eliminate the risk. But procedures like that have their own risks, and the biggest one is finding a suitable donor match. Fortunately, unbelievably, her oldest sister Melanie was an exact donor match. 2 years ago last month, they attempted the procedure, and it succeeded. Melanie saved her little sister's life. How cool is that? And you know what the best part is? On Christmas Day, Carissa and Matt announced that they've set the date again. They're getting married this August. Obviously, the lesson they've taken to heart is that you can't let past troubles stand in the way of enjoying life. So that's where we were. Where are you? What troubles are you facing in your life? You have a nasty neighbor, a crappy Wi-Fi signal, an unsupportive evaluation. My fellow Toastmasters, one lesson that I keep learning again and again and again is that our so-called troubles are nothing. Because when it's you or a loved one who's staring death in the eye, waiting to see who blinks first, that's when you learn what's truly important. There's an old saying, our greatest moments are the moments of greatest challenge. Greatest moments. Yeah, right. Not while you're living through them, they're not. But they are the greatest at one thing. They make for the greatest stories. Especially when everybody lives happily ever